Hello again guys, and welcome back to Chinese is Easy, the channel that makes learning Chinese easy and demystifies all of that nonsense about it being an impossible language to learn. Today I want to talk about motivation, okay? And this actually comes from another question from a viewer, and this question is from Dora, and she asked me, how did I stay motivated on the long journey of learning Chinese? Because she said she often looks at all the stuff she has to learn and gets a bit disheartened and a little bit put off. And I can totally understand that. And I think that comes down to a couple of reasons. Now, first of all, learning Chinese is like climbing a mountain, okay? And if you're climbing a mountain, I don't think it's helpful to keep looking up at the peak and saying to yourself, oh my God, we've got so far to go. I've got to go up through that ice and those rocks. This is going to be a nightmare. I think the best way to approach it is to just keep your head down and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. So in terms of learning Chinese, that basically means you don't think, oh, I've got to learn like all these characters and all these idioms and all these different things. You just set yourself your 10 items a day, or whatever your target is. You just keep learning those vocab items. You keep doing your flashcards, okay? And step by step, through a gradual process of accumulation, you build up vocab, you build up structures, and before you know it, you can say complex things. And you know, if you're putting one foot in front of the other, you're learning 10 vocab items every day over a year. That's 3,650. Now that, if you're learning the right stuff, that is enough to give you a very, very good grounding in Chinese, okay? And if we continue this mountain analogy, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I think it's helpful now and again to turn around, look down the mountain and say, wow, cool, look how far we've come. And that can give you some motivation to keep going. And you can do that by going out and, you know, whatever you're doing, say you listen to something on the news and you could understand a small snippet. Or I used to get excited. I remember the first time I was watching a Chinese TV show and the host said Fei Chang, and I was like, wow, Fei Chang, that means very. I've learned that. And I was like, it gave me this spark of, wow, one day maybe I can understand a TV broadcast because I've already understood a little part of it. I never imagined I would watch Chinese TV and be able to understand anything that they were saying on it. So it's important to be mindful and to be celebrating your small successes. Maybe you go into a restaurant and you order a bowl of rice. I also remember the first time I tried this when I was assigned to teach in China, and we were saying Yi Fan Wan. We didn't even know what the hell we were saying. We didn't have a clue. But if you say it and you get the right response and you get your bowl of rice, celebrate that. Think, wow, cool, I had a genuine interaction with a Chinese person. They understood me. This is really cool. I'm doing it. I'm speaking Chinese. If you write one character and you get it right, you're like, boom. And again, I remember all of these little milestones. I remember writing characters, sitting over my crappy little coffee table in my apartment in Qingdao and thinking, whoa, I'm doing it. I'm learning Chinese. I never thought this would happen. I thought it was impossible. I thought it was a really impossible language, and I never imagined, I just didn't think, wow, someone like me would be able to do this. So be mindful, be aware, and celebrate your successes, however small they may seem. And don't focus on the summit. Now, this brings me on to another point as well, and this is to do with the myths that surround Chinese, okay? You don't need to know 100,000 characters. You don't need to know 1,000 sayings by Confucius. You don't need to know 500 ancient Chengyu, the idioms, okay? That is BS. All you need to know is a few thousand key verbs and vocab items that will allow you to make the most commonly used structures and things that you need to say, okay? So this is one of those myths that floats around. Whenever I tell people that I learn Chinese, they're like, oh wow, but that means you must have had to memorize 100,000 characters. Isn't there 1,000,000 characters in Chinese? How many words are there in English? How many words do you actually use? Or whatever language you're watching, is your native language. There's a few thousand that we use on a regular basis. So don't get carried away and overwhelm yourself with the idea that you have to learn every ancient character in the Chinese language. It's just not necessary. And this also brings me on to the Pareto Principle, which is the 80-20 principle, which means that 20% of your efforts will get you 80% of your results. So the 20% of Chinese that you focus on will get you your 80% of results. So just, learn those key verbs like, can, will, do, all those things, should, and whatever, have. You focus on the key verbs, you focus on the key vocab. And I think this is important because some of the textbooks and materials when I was learning, they were having us learn stuff like, do you have a box of commemorative stamps? And like, I've been living in China for 10 years. In my whole time there, I've never ever had to ask for a box of commemorative stamps. You don't focus your attention in the wrong places. Just zero in on the 20% of what you need to focus on to get you that 80% of your gains. So, that is my thoughts on motivation. First of all, you're climbing a mountain. Don't look at the top, just put one foot in front of the other, and also look for intermediary peaks that you want to reach. Like when people are climbing Everest, they don't go, right, we're going to march up to Everest on day one. They have base camp, and then they have, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Try and break it down like that. I stayed motivated by setting those kind of intermediary goals, and I was doing HSK, so it was like, I'm going to get HSK level 4, because that was like the minimum. And I was like, yeah, I got that. And then it was like HSK level 6. Wow, yeah, because that's then the minimum to get into a university course in China. So I was like, let's get level 6. Then I got level 8, level 10. So you have little goals to aim for. Micro chunk it down. Chunk down your big goal of mastering Chinese into these smaller goals of passing my vocab test on Friday with my teacher. Getting the HSK level whatever 4. Break it down. Don't focus on the peak of the mountain. Keep your head down as well and go step by step. Just do your work for the day. 10 items. Do that every day. Be consistent. And you're going to have thousands of vocab items and verb constructions and stuff by the end of the year. Also, turn around and look down the mountain and celebrate a little bit what you've done. And, that will keep you going. Also, don't get overwhelmed with the myths and ideas about needing 100,000 characters and all that stuff. It's BS. And also try and apply the 80-20 principle. Study smart. Yeah, you don't just have to study harder and harder and harder. You can study smarter and smarter. Apply the 80-20 principle. Use software that's out there for spaced repetition, for flashcards and some of that stuff, okay? So those are my thoughts. I hope it helps because, I really wouldn't want you to get demotivated because it is a great journey to be on. It's a transformative thing. It's a life-changing thing, as I've talked about in my other videos. Learning Chinese, learning any language is a hugely enriching experience, and it'll enrich your life. You'll make different connections, different friendships. You might get married or whatever, it takes you on some very interesting journeys and different paths. So stick to it. Don't get demotivated. Try and apply what I've said there, and I hope that helps. Check out all the other videos that we have on the channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, which should be here, and also check out the other videos here. And I'll see you guys all really soon in the other videos. Bye bye for now.